Welcome students. We are going to start with the next part of this chapter. Last time we have completed brains, midbrain part. Now we are going to start hindbrain. The posterior region of the brain, that is at the back side in our common language, which consists of pons varoli, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. Pons varoli is a rounded bulge of the inner underside of the brain stem, that is at the base. The brain stem consists of the midbrain, pons varoli, medulla and continues up to the spinal cord. You have to check diagram simultaneously. Pons varoli contains a cross band of nerve fibers connecting cerebellum, cerebellar lobes, medulla oblongata and spinal cord. It also contains several nuclei. Cerebellum. It is the second largest part of the brain, consists of two lateral hemispheres and a central vermis. Outer part of the cerebellum is made up of grey matter, while inner part is white matter. So white matter projects outside and forms a branch tree-like structure known as arbor vitae. The surface of cerebellum shows the convolutions, that's gyri and sulci, as we have explained it earlier. A number of nuclei lie deep within each lateral and cerebellar hemisphere. So over 30 million neurons lie in the cortex, and these pairs of myelinated nerve bundles are called cerebellar peduncles, which connect cerebellum to the other parts of the central nervous system, that is to the midbrain, we can say, and to the spinal cord. Function. It is an important center which maintains equilibrium of body, posture, balancing orientation, means our body stature, we can say, which is straight or curved. Balancing orientation, how we can balance our body on 1 feet or 2 feet or both together. Moderation of voluntary movements, Ars movements, and maintenance of muscle tone. That means how we are going to move our muscles. It is a regulatory center for neuromuscular activities and controls the rapid activities like walking, running, speaking, etc. All these activities of cerebellum are involuntary. Involuntary, that means these are not into our urge. All activities of cerebellum are voluntary. There is a mistake in this note. Medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is the posterior conical part of the brain and continuous as the spinal cord. So it has inner grey matter, outer white matter, controls involuntary vital functions like heartbeat, respiration, vasomotor activities, and peristalsis. So these are all movements where the heartbeat for the heart, respiration for the lungs, vasomotor activities like for the our kidneys, and peristalsis for the movement of the digestion inside the intestine, which are not in our urge, not in our control. So also controls the non-vital reflex activities like coughing, sneezing, swallowing, vomiting, yawning, etc. So the cavity of medulla is called fourth ventricle or metasole. Its roof of medulla oblongata forms the posterior choroid plexus, which actually secretes CSF. So the posterior choroid plexus is also shows three openings, a pair of lateral foramen of Luschka and the median foramen of Magendie. This is not so much important, that's why which is not explained properly over here. Spinal cord. After brain, the next part of the central nervous system is spinal cord. Medulla oblongata posteriorly continues as spinal cord. It lies within the neural canal of the vertebral column and it's surrounded by three meanings: dura mater, arcuate matters and pie matter, as same as the brain. The cerebrospinal fluid CSF secreted by the pia mater forms a fluid cushion around the spinal cord and also which is present inside it in the central canal. So external, because we have already learned in our 11th standard that spinal cord, that is cord of the hollow notochord is present So in vertebrata, it is present in the vertebral column. So that hollow column of notochord which is filled with the CSF in human, that is the CSF, that is cerebrospinal fluid. So spinal cord is the broadest in its anterior end and gradually tapers at the cornus medullaris at LA1 to LA2 and continues as thread-like filum terminale end posteriorly. This L1 and L2 is the position of vertebra, that is lumbar vertebra 1 and lumbar vertebra 2. The bunch of nerves in the hindbrain of the spinal cord along with the filum terminale appears like a horse tail, so it is called cauda equina, where the tail of the spinal cord, which is termed as cauda equina, because it shows long fiber like structures. From the spinal cord, the cord arises 31 pairs of spinal nerves that we are going to check in the table, and these nerves are concentrated in the cervical and lumbar region, which is called cervical and lumbar swelling, and also concentrated around the conus medullaris. That's why all nerves are actually arising from our vertebral column. Now the histology of spinal cord, TS of spinal cord, dorsoventrally, which is flattened due to the presence of deep narrow posterior median fissure and shallow broad anterior median fissure. Here we can check the posterior median fissure, posterior median septum. So one which is shallow and one which is a kind of flat. At the center of the central canal is present. There is a cavity exactly in the middle. The fissure divides the spinal cord incompletely into right and left side. Why it is incompletely? Because it again meets at the center. So the gray matter is somewhat H-shaped and butterfly shape, we can say, and is on the inner side, which is surrounded by the white matter on the outside. So the fissure divides the gray matter into 6 horns, namely dorsal, lateral, ventral horns, while the white matter is divisible into 6 columns or furiculi, which is namely dorsal, lateral and ventral furiculi. The dorsal and ventral horns extend out of the spinal cord as dorsal root and the ventral root of spinal cord respectively. So the dorsal root is connected to the dorsal root ganglion. It has an aggregation of collection of unipolar sensory neurons. The association of the interneurons lie inside the gray matter, which receives signal from the sensory nerve, integrate it, that means it gets mixed with it, and direct response is given towards the motor neurons, which is not that matter or the stimulus which is not reached to the brain. So towards the motor nucleus lying towards the ventral horn. So the lateral horns have neurons of autonomic nervous system, that is autonomous nervous system, and the nerves arising from these neurons emerge out from the ventral loop of the spinal cord. So the white matter consists mainly of the bundles of myelinated nerve fibers, which are called the ascending and descending tracts. So ascending tracts which actually conduct sensory impulse from spinal cord to the brain and lie in the dorsal column or furiculi. Descending tracts conduct motor impulses from the brain to the lateral and the ventral furiculi of spinal cord. Now there is a function of spinal cord. It is the main center for the most reflex actions. It provides pathway for the conduction of sensory and motor impulses from the brain to the and from the brain. That means which carries impulses towards the brain and actually getting from the brain and reaches to the sends to the body. It provides nervous connection to many parts of the body. Peripheral nervous system, the next part of the nervous system. Peripheral nervous system connects the central nervous system to the different parts of the body, having receptors and effectors. Depending on the connection to the CNS, peripheral nerves are classified into two main types. cranial nerves and spinal nerves. So these nerves arise from the brain, cranial nerves which are arise from the brain, because it is directly arising from the brain, that's why it is cranial, and which are directly arise from the spine, that's why it is termed as spinal nerves. In all amniotes, that is reptiles, birds and mammals, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves which are denoted by the Roman number 1 to 12. So ascending to their function, according to their function, these are classified as sensory, motor and mixed. Here the name and nature function distribution, which is in shortly explained. I'm just not going to explain and read everything, because which is very simply it is explained over here. So instead of checking that box in the on the page, on the textbook page number 196, you can just follow this thing, that whole chart over here. I'm just going to explain some word. Olfactory, that is related to nose. Optic, related to eye. Oculomotor, again related to the eye. Trochlear, that is related to eye. Trigeminal, related to our jaw bones. Abducens, that is related to the eye. Facial, that is related to the facial muscles. And also for the our gastro impulses, taste impulses. Auditory, for hear, that is for hearing, ear. Gasopharyngeal, that is the muscular movement and the sensation from our throat. Vagus, that is chest and abdomen. And spinal, that is shoulder muscles. Hypoglossal, that is the movement of tongue. So according to their distribution, we can say their function is also easy to understand. And here one of the key which is given, that you can check. Next part, that is spinal nerves. These nerves arise from the spinal cord. 31 pairs of spinal nerves originating from the spinal cord. They are mixed nerves and they provide two-way communication between the spinal cord and part of the upper and lower limbs, neck and trunk. So cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral and coccygeal. These are depend on according to their how and which part, from which part of the spinal cord, at the position of the vertebra, from which vertebra they are coming out. So cervical, which is present at the neck region. Thoracic at the thorax chest region. Lumbar at the abdominal region. Sacral, that is pelvics. And coccix, so pelvics and coccix, that is at the base of our body, we can say, pelvic girdle. Formation of a typical spinal nerve. All spinal nerves are of the mixed type. They have some nerve fibers at sensory and some are motor. Both functions they can perform. Each spinal nerve is formed inside the neural canal of vertebral column. From the dorsal side of the spinal cord arises the dorsal root, which is sensory in nature. Ventral side of the spinal cord arises ventral root, which is motor in nature. So dorsal sensory root, ventral motor root unites with each other to form spinal nerves, and which are mixed type. So from the spinal nerve arises three branches. They are as follows: ramus dorsalis, ventralis, and communicans. Ramus dorsalis, it is supplied to the skin and muscles of the back. Ramus ventralis, it is supplied to the skin and muscles of lateral and ventral side of the body wall. And ramus communicans, it is connected with the sympathetic ganglia of the autonomous nervous system. The autonomous nervous system that we are going to study the next part. That means ramus communicans is a connecting part between the peripheral nervous system and to the autonomous nervous system. Here is the formation of the formation of the spinal nerve, which is given, that you can check even in the diagram. Part reflex action is removed from your syllabus for this year, so I am directly turning to the next part of this chapter, that is autonomic nervous system, that is autonomous nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system, these are the two part of autonomous nervous system, where the autonomic nervous systems impulses from the central nervous system to the involuntary organs and smooth muscles of the body, which transmits impulses from the central nervous system to the involuntary organs and smooth muscle of the body, and consist of special set of peripheral nerves that regulate the activities of involuntary organs like cardiac muscles, smooth muscles, and glands, etc. It is generally formed by two types of neuron, preganglionic neuron and postganglionic neuron. In these impulses are conducted from the central nervous system by an axon that synapses with an autonomous ganglion. It is known as preganglion neuron. The second neuron in the ganglionic pathway has an axon that extends from the autonomic ganglion to an effector organ and is known as postganglionic neuron, so which is responsible for the motor activities. Autonomic nervous system consists of the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. First, it is also called the sympathetic nervous system. First point, it is also called thoracolumbar outflow because it is coming from the thoracic and the lumbar vertebrae. So it originates in the thoracic and lumbar region of the spinal cord, that is T1 to L1, L3, that is thoracic 1 to lumbar 3, and consists of 22 pairs of sympathetic ganglia, which lies on a pair of sympathetic cords on lateral side of the spinal cord. The preganglionic fiber, the preganglionic nerve fibers are short and postganglionic nerve fibers are long. Adrenaline and noradrenaline is produced at the terminal ends of prostaglandionic nerve fibers at the effector organ, hence it is called adrenergic fibers. Function: sympathetic nervous system controls body activities during the emergencies, that is flight or fight, that is run away or either fight response. It has excitatory and stimulating effect on most of the organs of the blood or most of the organs of the body except in the digestive and the excretory organ. So all exciting movements are actually carried out by this system. Parasympathetic nervous system, it is also called as craniosacral outflow, that means which are directly related to the cranium, consist of the branches arising from the cranial 3, 7, 9 and 10, these nerves, and the sacral 2, 3 and the spinal 4 nerves. It consists of ganglia which are very close or within the wall of the effector organs. From these ganglia arises two types of nerves, preganglionic nerves long and postganglionic nerves are short. Acetylcholine is produced at the terminal end of the postganglionic nerve at the effector organ, and hence these are also called cholinergic fiber. So function, of course, it forms so many kinds of hormones for emergency and for the movement. So parasympathetic nervous system is antagonistic to sympathetic nervous system, brings back to normal because of that emergency formed by the sympathetic nervous system. All activities which are stimulated by the sympathetic system, hence it is also called the housekeeping system. So it has an inhibitory effect on most of the organs. It has an inhibitory effect on most of the organs, and the activities like those associated with the digestion, peristalsis, and micturition, that is passing the urine outside the body, which are inhibited by the sympathetic nervous system, are thus accelerated by the parasympathetic system. Autonomous nervous system is useful for homeostasis of the body. This is the main function system. The autonomous nervous system contains sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous systems. So all that are the, what we can say, the functions are included here. That is flight or fight, or rate of heartbeat, breathing, flow of blood to skin, and also includes the parasympathetic nervous system functions like decrease the rate of heartbeat, breathing, flow of blood, skin, and muscle of the body. And this shows that the contents of sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system through the dual control mechanism maintains the homeostasis in our body. The comparison between the sympathetic parasympathetic given here. So the organ or a region heartbeat gets increased by the sympathetic, decreased by the parasympathetic effect. Blood vessel which are constrict sympathetic and parasympathetic dilates it. Arterial blood pressure which is increased by the sympathetic system and decreased by the parasympathetic effect. Pupil of the eye which dilates in the dark by sympathetic and which constricts in the light by parasympathetic. Gastrointestinal movements, that is peristaltic movements we can say, where retards peristalsis, that means when food is passed, and accelerates of peristalsis, that is the parasympathetic effect. Urinary bladder, that is relaxes of the bladder sympathetic system, which releases and contracts the bladder, which actually relaxes the bladder, that is for the storage of the urine, and contracts the bladder, that is to pass the urine. Part of the sensory receptor which is reduced for this year. So we are just going to turn directly to the disorders. Disorders of nervous system. First, psychological disorders, commonly called mental disorders we can say. These are a wide range of conditions that affect the mood, thinking, or behavior, and this affect multiple areas of life and create distress for the person suffering from it. Some of the major categories of the psychological disorders are intellectual disability, that means formerly known as the mental retardation, autism spectrum disorder, where the stunted growth and also the person cannot find a relation between the two, bipolar disorder, cannot find relation between the two different opposite conditions, depression, anxiety, that is a kind of fear disorder, anxiety disorder, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Sometimes I just think that this disease is found in our all students, especially regular students. And stress related to disorder, that is the tension we can say. Parkinson's disease, degeneration of dopamine which is actually produced by the neurons of the central nervous system. So these symptoms are gradually over the years, and symptoms are the tremors, that means a kind of epilepsy, stiffness, that is the hardness of the muscles, difficulty in walking, difficulty in balancing, and also in the coordination. That's why walking, listening, giving response, that all. Alzheimer's disease, it is the most common form of dementia. Dementia, that means the less memory, those who are keep forgetting, as like you forget everything, especially submission of books and everything. Its incidence increases with the age, showing the loss of cognitive functioning, thinking, like which cognitive functions like thinking, remembering, reasoning, and behavioral abilities. When Alzheimer disease reached to its peak point, that person even forget how to eat. That is the one of the behavioral ability, like which became like a small child, to such an extent that it interferes with the person's daily life and activities. Even he forgets his own home address. It occurs due to loss of the cholinergic and the other neurons in the CNS, accumulation of the amyloid proteins in the CNS. That's of course with the age, growing in the age. There is no cure for Alzheimer's disease, but treatment slows down the progression of the disease and many improve the quality of life. So there is no proper drug for it which actually recovers.